right, thank you so much. And I know you've had a little bit of time visiting over the little snack, so we'll go ahead and get started because we really want to respect your time. We know, because we're all busy with families, with work, with missions, everybody's so busy. Time is the most valuable thing that you have, so we really want to respect it and give you a lot of content for your effort in, freeing up and calling people to carpool the kids and not sleeping in this morning. Isn't that a dream, really? I always said, you stop being able to sleep in when you have children, and then by the time they can get their own cereal, you can't sleep in. I'm gonna have a conversation with God about that when I get there. So our first speaker today is Sherri Henley. She is the author of the Come Into Your Own book, and all of you have it there. And it's really a very valuable guidebook. She'll tell you how to use it to begin this process, which really begins with what Jackie will help us do later today. So this is yours to keep. Sherri is not just a published author of not one, but 5 books, but she's also the founder of Business Over Coffee International, which started with 8 people in a Dunkin' Donuts and now has grown into a global organization, people all over the world connected. And she has a radio show, Business Over Coffee radio show, in which she interviews entrepreneurs and people who help people live a better life and create a better self. In fact, that's where we first met Jackie Woodside. She is my co-host on Together Strong Thursday on the Mary Beth Conley Show on AM 990 every Thursday. She is also founder of Digital Citizen University, Sherri Henley Intelligence. DCU is actually an arm of that. And I Share Agency. And her mission is to bring everyone's talents together and gifts to create a better world. And I don't know if that's her formal mission statement, but that's what she does. So that's what she wants to help all of us do. Sherri, come on up and get us started.
Have a seat there at the table where I was. Okay. I'm sorry, Mom. This is my beautiful mother that just walked in, by the way. I'll walk that way. Come into your own. I've been asked many times how I came into my own. And my answer is always that each of us are evolving daily. So each time we have a new day, we have an opportunity to come into our own, to own something in our life. Sometimes it may be something we don't really want to own, but we need to so that we can actually embrace it. And as Delmar wave at everyone over there, says, own it and release it. So these are the types of things that we do throughout our lives. And ownership is a discovery process. And so with this book, Come Into Your Own, my name is not on the front for a reason. Because when you pick this book up and you see in the back of the book, there are places there for you to take notes throughout the day, regardless of who is speaking, so that you can have your notes, your own notes, everyone say own notes, in your book. This is written as a journal for you so that when you pick this book up, you don't pick it up and say, oh, Sherri Henley wrote this book. No, I want you to pick it up and say, oh, this is my journal. Now I can own my career. Now I can own my education. Now I can own my reputation. Now I can own my choices. Now I can own my expressions, my appearance, my image. And it's a 31-day experience. Now, can you do this in 31 days? Of course, you can read it in 31 days, take one day at a time, take notes, your own notes with each day. And when you do, I suggest that you revisit this book 6 months later and see what progress you have made so that you can continue to evolve with each step of your life. Because as we all know, we're different than we were 20 years ago. Well, I'm dating myself now. Maybe some of you are different than you were 5 years ago. But we are different than we were because we have grown as individuals. And actually being able to gear that growth in the way that would be a positive growth for us is very important. And you will hear that from both Mary Beth Conley and Jackie Woodside today, who is the featured speaker, who will talk about calming the chaos in our lives. And by calming the chaos in our lives, we are taking actions to own various aspects of our lives. So this is a tool to use. It's another tool in your toolbox. And I encourage you to follow along in your book and take notes as I talk about each day. I'm not going to take a lot of time because the book speaks for itself, and we want to hear from our featured keynote and also from Mary Beth Conley. But I do want to lay the infrastructure of what coming into your own is about. You will also hear from Alandis Dobbins today about owning your career. You will hear from Mary McCammon about owning your business. You will hear from others about owning various aspects of your life. Dr. Heather is in the building, and she will talk about owning your wellness. So you have a lot in store, and those are 5-minute own talks. And then we're going to have engagement processes called own talks at the tables, to where we will then talk about those particular aspects. So this is going to be a very engaging process. So who's ready to get started? I know you can do better than that. First of all, you're from the South. Secondly, you're ladies, you're women. So we know how to make noise. So act like you're at home and you are saying something to your kids that aren't listening. Okay, now, can I get something in the room? Thank you all. I am just so delighted to be here with you today. It warms my heart to see each and every one of you, and to see my mother there in the beautiful yellow jacket that I bought for her. Mom, you look beautiful.
And the dad's right here.
Oh, and my father, yes. Everyone, my father, Reverend Richard W. Motes Sr., he is the salesman. My mother's the author, so I got a mix of both of them.
Got a mix.
Thank you, Dad. That was beautiful. I cherish those moments. So as we go into this today, let's look at owning our feelings. Each of us have feelings. We are human beings. And so those feelings can be topsy-turvy. It depends on the day, it depends on the circumstance. And so as women, we tend to be emotional beings, correct? And as emotional beings, sometimes we will overreact rather than respond. Maybe we are not proactive enough, so we're not planning ahead. So when we own our feelings, it's like peeling away an onion. How do I know? Because I've done it many times in my life. When I have had feelings that were very internal, and I had to find out why they were there. So every feeling we have has a root problem. Am I a psychologist? Absolutely not. I cannot even stand next to Jackie Woodside. But what I can do is I can stand here and I can speak from my own experience. And when you peel away the onion and you say, I feel afraid because my mom's sick. Okay, so what happens if your mom's sick? Well, I feel afraid because if my mom's sick, then she may go to the hospital. Okay, what happens when she goes to the hospital? I feel afraid that when she goes to the hospital that I'll be left at home and I'll be with a stranger, or I'm not sure who I will be with. So what happens if you're left with a stranger? I will feel abandoned. So the root problem is abandonment. So that's how I have learned to discover, why am I feeling this feeling? There is a root, and it has to be below many layers. So I ask myself questions until I figure out exactly what I am afraid of, so that I can then own that feeling and say, wait a minute, I'm living in the if factor, number one, which I will not live in that neighborhood. The neighborhood of if does not exist. So we say when, why, what, where, how, correct? So we own our feelings in distinctive ways, and we need to be intentional to do that. And many of us are. Jackie Woodside's a great person that just walks around in such calmness. And truly, your book, Calming the Chaos, you wear it well. And that is, I think a lot of us are seeking that calm through our feelings. Day 2, we own our security, and security is wrapped around a lot of things. I think about security of the home. As a single mother, when I was raising my small children at the time, I was not only giving them security of a home and making sure the locks were on the door and the windows were locked and all of those things that you do, but also the security of love in the home, the security of those things that they needed in their emotional beings. Security means a lot of different things to a lot of us. So security may mean having a happy marriage. It may mean having a great career. It may mean having a wonderful relationship with God. So owning your security and understanding that if your career and your friends and those types of things are your security, what will happen if those things or when those things are no longer your infrastructure? I speak from experience because that happened. I was a pastor of 2 churches. We had 2 children. We had a lovely life. And I went through a divorce, and everything, the church, I was divorced from the church. I was divorced from the pastor. So now everything is taken out from under me. My foundation is totally shaken. And so my security was on the foundation of God and my value system. And I rebuilt my identity through that. So I began to own my identity in order to find my security again. So the point being is, do not put your security in other people, but make sure you're placing it in the right place and own that and discover that. And that's different for each and every one of us. And day 3, we own our thoughts. We think a lot of things, and those things are going to pass through our mind, but what we do with those thoughts is what matters. So owning what we think and casting out all things, right, that should not be there, or maybe categorizing them into the right place. I call it the waffle syndrome. I think it was Jackie, I was talking with you the other day, and I said, I heard that women think like spaghetti and men think like waffles. And I said, for some reason, I don't know why, but I think like a waffle because I have a project in this segment and a project in this segment and a little box over here, and I move from one project to the next. So however you think, own your thoughts and categorize them to where they will serve you well and serve others well. Day 4, own your words. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me is the biggest misnomer that has ever been spoken. Because words are as sharp as a two-edged sword. So own your words, think before you speak, and are we perfect? Are we going to say things that sometimes we regret? Absolutely. Own that. Write it down. Say, these are the things I said, and what could I say different the next time? How could I think through this the next time I am faced with this situation? Day 5, own your actions. Actions speak louder than words. Well, I think that body language is definitely something that tells us about a person. And I know my father, he used to, actually, I think it was a comedian act for him. He would sit in the pastor's home and he would show them all these things about how you sat in a chair, what it meant you were dominant, or if you cross your arms, that you're shutting someone out, and those types of things. And I'm not an expert on body language, but I do know that our actions are definitely what we are responsible for. So owning our actions, this is a very basic book, but it is a discovery process that when you go through it and you actually think about your actions and how they are affecting others in a positive way, write that down, own that, and some in a negative way. Own that. And then decide how you're going to correct the negative and you're going to accentuate the positive. Day 6, own your choices. We heard that from Delmar Johnson last night. Own your choices, seasons of my soul. And choices are, and I heard Jackie say it, and I'm not going to steal the line. I'll let her tell you what that means. But we're faced with choices every day. And so when we are faced with those choices, sometimes we make great choices, sometimes we do not. So we own the good, the bad, and the ugly. Everything that is who we are today, everything that we have done in the past that has brought us to this moment in time where we are right here in this room, has made us who we are. Whether it was a good choice or whether it was a bad choice or whether it was a middle of the road choice, it has actually made you who you are. Think about that. Has it made you a better person? Have you looked at some of the choices that you've made that were positive and said, how can I even improve that more? What could I do to accentuate that positive in my personality and in my being? Have you looked at the choices of maybe a former marriage? I have a few. And with those, what I have done is I have categorized those in my mind and said, that marriage, I learned this. That marriage, I learned this. And it took many, many years to get there, but I've been able to apply the things that I learned that were positive from those marriages to my life, rather than dwelling on the negatives in those marriages. Day 7 is own your expressions. So we had, actually, Mary Beth, you had on Live at 9 a gentleman that was talking about first impressions and those types of things. And so our expressions really do state who we are. And you can be a very open person. We were talking about the South versus the North. And I mentioned that some people are so open. And Jackie, actually, you are a very open person. And I find that odd because you're from the North, by the way. And but being an open person also brings you to a vulnerable place. So that's something that we will talk about in just a moment. But being open enough to trust until you do not have a reason, or until they give you a reason not to trust. I believe that once someone gives you a reason not to trust, in my experience, that's when I have the boundaries, right? But I love to accept people as they are. And then we go from there. So how do you own your expressions? How do you own your smiles? Smiles are free. We can give them away all day long. So own your expressions. In fact, Jay talked about that last night, about using your voice, your loud voice, for an introvert. And it was outstanding. Owning your talents is what we were talking about at the time. So there's many ways to own our expressions. Day 8 is own your education. And my beautiful mother is there with me. And she is holding her book of the 11th book that she has written. She is an author of 11 books that have all been published, and I am so proud of you, Mom. Mom raised me and my brother, and she was absolutely, well, we didn't have a TV, so I don't know if it was Leave It to Beaver. I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly the kind of mom she was. But I do know that she was always there. She had dinner on the table at 5 o'clock every night, which, Mom, I didn't get that gene. And she was always there when I got home from school. She homeschooled us. We traveled with my father. My mom was there right by his side. Every night we went to church, and Mom made us practice music for 1 hour every day. Okay, so my mother is a testament of owning your education, because she definitely made me, or I was going to see maybe something I didn't want to see on my, backside. So owning my education actually came from my mother because she taught me how to read, how to write, and I am so grateful for that. She also taught me how to sing. I started singing and playing the piano at 3 years old in church. And my mother cultivated that gift of just a God-given gift. And I was able to make a career out of it for many years. So owning your education looks different to a lot of people. To some people, that means going and getting your education at a university, getting your graduate's degree. I promise you, I wish I had mine. I do not. So what do? Do I lament the fact that I don't? No, absolutely not. I am educating myself every day of my life. I own my education, and I decide what I want to learn about. And I love to study about cultures. I think it's so important that we are together strong and that we embrace one another regardless of our belief system, regardless of our family of origin, that we are together strong. So that's a passion of mine. So I study those types of things. So there's many ways to learn now. You can go to college, you can get your degree, you can get online, you can take online courses, you can read blogs. Make sure they're written by the right people. In fact, Jackie writes for the Huffington Post, and Harvard Business Review is a great place to go to read blogs, excellent blogs. Business Insider is another that's outstanding. So you will learn about topics, and all you have to do is Google it. It's one Google away. So someone will ask me a question, actually Paris will ask me a question, and I'll say, hold on. And remember, I don't have my graduate's degree. So I go to Google and I look it up, and I learn so much. There's actually an email that I get every day that sends me a new word, and it's a business word. And so I have to say that I feel really good that most of the time I already know the word. So that's fantastic, but I'm still learning new words because every day I get that in my inbox and I learn that word. So whatever it looks like to you in terms of owning your education, I'm standing in front of Frances Fabian, who is a Harvard graduate, by the way, Fogelman College of Business and Economics professor next door, and such a gracious person. And so when I'm standing next to you, I would say 20 years ago, I would have felt definitely inferior, absolutely. But now I really believe that we all are who we are, and we accept that, and we own that, and we shine because of it. So I'm so glad you're here, though, because you can help me own my education. Day 9 is Own Your Experience, and there you will see my dear friend Tina Tatum and I at the radio station, and most of these pictures you're looking at were taken by Cherokee Rose family. So she is fantastic, yes, she's waving at you. And so that was taken there right after we had recorded a show with Mary Beth Conley, and we were having so much fun, as you can tell, and we own our experience. And you will hear from Tina today about owning your community, and we both just love what we do. And when you love what you do and you know who you are, that's the combination that we're looking for, because what you do is completely different from who you are. So if I say, what do you do?
I am a professional writer, public relations specialist, and book author. Well, you asked me what do I do, not who I am. So I didn't really
Correct.
answer that right.
Okay, so what do you do? Now I'm going to ask you who you are. Tell me more about yourself.
All right, I'm a child of God. I'm an introvert. I am a creative writer.
Okay. All right. So now when someone comes up to you and says, tell me what you do, how about wrapping that story of who you are into what you do? Because then it's not a sales pitch. It's telling them who you are. It's being authentic. Okay, so now I'm going to ask you, tell me what you do.
Tying that all together, I am a child of God that likes to write creatively and help others.
And how do you do that?
And I do that through my company, Put It in Writing Professional Writing Service.
Fantastic. She did well. And I'm standing next to Jana Cardona, wave at everyone, who is the referral university, and she actually specializes in putting people through training and coaching on how to approach people and also how to answer those types of questions. And so we are among the best here in the room. Day 10 is own your obligations. How many of you have ever let some of those obligations slip? All of us. So we learn by our mistakes, and we also learn by our triumphs. So when we own those obligations and we say, okay, I'm going to leave that to Jackie because she's going to talk about that today and how you can do that and how you can schedule that into your life. Day 11 is own your agreements. This is a very important piece of life. How many of you remember back in the day when this is what was an agreement? Dr. Heather? So we would agree. Our word was our bond. Now things have changed. Although some of us are still altruistic and we believe that our word is our bond, and there are certain people in this room that I definitely believe that. I know if my mother tells me something, it's going to happen. It's true. She's not going to lie to me. I know Mary Beth is going to do the same. I know Dr. Patton's going to do the same. I know Jana Cardona is going to do the same. I know Mary McCanman. I know Frances Fabian. And I could go on and on and on, and Tina and Terry. And these are individuals in my life, and Delmar and Alandis, that we've all built trust around one another. And so we can own an agreement with a handshake. And we can say, we're going to do this. And then if something happens and we need to renegotiate, then we come back to the table. That's very, very important. So if you make an agreement and you see that you're not able to keep that agreement, renegotiating that agreement is extremely important. So just approach that person and say, it's just not feasible right now. I didn't realize this was going to happen, or I didn't take this into an account. And so now you are owning the fact that you didn't take certain things into account when you made that agreement. And so being authentic is truly what we're talking about, being transparent by owning our agreements. And day 12 is own your vulnerability. This one is very close to my heart because I've learned from experience that you do not tell your news to everybody in the room. So your vulnerability is a gift. You give a gift, a vulnerability to someone. So you choose who you give gifts to, correct? You don't give gifts to everyone in the world. So be very, very selective as to who you are becoming vulnerable with. Make sure they're in that trust circle that I just named. Very important. Own your transparency. Being fully transparent, and you'll see a lot of that today from the people that speak, because it's just life. We are all living in life. We are all beings. We're all different. I'm glad that you all don't look like me, and I'm glad that I don't look like all of you. And can you imagine if we were all clones? Can you imagine? And you all had on green suits? Yes, it would be very boring. So, but being transparent is being who you are. It again speaks to that transparency and that authenticity of who you are. And sometimes, being a psychologist, I'm sure people aren't really able to do that without going through some type of therapy. So you may need to do that. I don't know. I'm not telling you you need therapy. But I am saying that if you're not able to be transparent, then own that. Find out why. And if you are transparent, then name the reasons why you believe you are. Was it your raising? Was it the values you were taught as you were growing up? Is it something that happened that was positive in your life? Those are the things that take you on this holistic discovery process. Day 14, own your integrity. And I have a scripture there, Proverbs 24:6. Integrity requires one to seek counsel. Now that is paraphrased, but seeking counsel is extremely important in our lives because the Bible tells us so. And it's also important to know who you're seeking counsel from. So out of the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, there is safety. 1 is a lonely number. 2 are better than 1. All of these biblical scriptures that come to mind, that with our integrity also comes the circle that we have around us. Because your character is defined by who you are. And who you are is defined sometimes by the company that you keep. So be very selective in who is in your circle. Own your reputation. Character is who you are. A reputation cannot be owned because a reputation is called reputation management. A lot of us know about that because of digital strategies and so forth, and Google alerts and all of those things. With all of that being said, we can manage our reputation and we can own our character. People will talk about us. The more we get up on that wall, the more they're going to talk. It's going to be positive and it's going to be negative. We cannot control that. But what we can control is what our response is to that. We can also control how we manage that online. Because the higher you get on the wall, the more reviews you're going to get, the more responses you're going to give. So if you get a great review, then it's like, yeah, I want to share this all over the place, right? You're sharing it all over the social platforms. And when you get that negative review, and I said when because you will, then what is your response? You own that. And you say, I regret you had this experience. I would like to have the opportunity to speak with you, to talk about how we can solve this situation and provide a solution. Now, what does that do for you? When someone is searching online for a bank, let's just say a bank, and they see a good review, a bad review, a good review, 2 bad reviews, no responses to any of them, then it immediately says, I don't want to go to that bank. But when you find that bank that has the same thing and they've answered each and every one of those reviews, even the good ones and the bad ones, then immediately you think, they're on top of this. I like that. So that's very important online, and I'm segueing into that, but it's definitely a part of our lives now. So it's important to watch that, especially in business or as a speaker and author. Owning your reputation is very important. Day 16, own your strengths. Only you know what your strengths are because they're inside you. You may not have discovered those strengths yet. If you have not, continue to dig deep until you find them. Also, look for mentors in your life because mentors will pull you up. And while they are pulling you up, you are mentoring someone and you are pulling them up. I call it the stair-step mentality. So while I am pulling someone up, I'm also being pulled. So we're all in this together, hand in hand. What song is that? That just came to mind.
You have to write it.
So definitely owning your strengths and displaying those strengths, because we all have strengths. And guess what? We all have weaknesses as well. And we need to own our weaknesses. How do we do that? We own our strengths through collaboration. So when I collaborate with Jana, can you come up here for a second? And let's see, Dr. Heather and Tina Okay, so Jana's referral strategy. So, I'm sorry, I'm going to lock arms with you. So I get in touch with Jana so she can work with one of my clients because she's going to talk with them about referral strategy, and I'm going to talk with them about their digital strategy, okay? So online and offline.
Offline.
Okay, and then Dr. Heather over here, she is a doctor, and she's going to tell you all about wellness today. And so all I know is that I have fibromyalgia and I need to eat certain foods and I need to stay away from others. And that's about all I know about wellness. So what am I going to do if someone needs wellness? I'm going to send them to you, right? And so now we have locked arms and we are strong. And so now Tina, she is a go-getter and she is also a minister. And so I have someone that comes to me who is in need of spiritual counseling. And I'm working on digital strategy, and I think, you know what? Tina is so grounded in the Word, and Pastor Tina, that I would like for her to talk to this person. In fact, we've done this before. And so I pick up the phone and I call Tina, and now we're all working together, and now when we pull on each other, feel the strength. Now, next to you, the people next to you, grab their arms and pull. Grab their arms and pull. And what you're going to find and feel is the strength from one another. So the resistance is actually creating strength. Thank you so much. And that is what we call collaboration, which is owning your weakness. Now, how do you do that? You collaborate your strengths and you delegate your weakness. Day 18 is own your emotions. I used to cry a lot. I still do occasionally, but I used to be a big crier. I think it was because Dad always got my way when I cried. I think that's what it was. Our emotions actually manifest themselves in many ways. They can manifest through tears, through smiles, through laughter, through heartache and grief. And whatever emotion you're going through, Dr. Patton talks about healing the hurt and takes you through a 12-step course on how to heal the hurt. And she is so passionate about what she does. Thank you. Thank you for being who you are, because I know our spirit's connected. And so owning your emotions is so important. And this is the lady that you could see in the Mid-South. Jackie is another, Calming the Chaos, that's absolutely phenomenal. And use your book. Day 19, own your community. Right here, we're owning our community. We also own our community when we go to churches, when we go to our neighborhoods, when we go to our children's schools, or wherever we are. Let's say we're in the mall and we don't know anyone in there. We can own our community by sharing a free smile. Look at your neighbor and share a smile. How about that? Wow, we have beautiful smiles in the room, right? Own your responsibilities. This is very elementary. I understand that. However, I believe all of us, including myself, need to be reminded of this from time to time. And whatever that responsibility is, writing it down in your book and saying, okay, these are my responsibilities and these are the things that I'm doing. And I'm sure that most of you in here are completely responsible individuals. But we also have teens in here that we're talking to. So we have a mixed variety here today. So owning those responsibilities, however they look, and if it's overwhelming, then you need to buy Jackie's book, because she'll teach you how to work through that process of owning your responsibilities. And by the way, Delmar, you look great in that picture. Just needed to throw that in there. Day 21 is own your talents. Whatever it is. I tell you what, when I have the privilege of standing in front of a group of people or playing the piano and singing or speaking at a church or a conference, it's absolutely transcendent to me, because most of the time with fibromyalgia, I'll have a bit of pain each day, but I deal with it. God knows it's there, and so I make the best of it, and I give it everything I've got, but I also use good common sense, and I own my responsibilities for my body, right? And so I say that to say that when I stand in front of a pulpit or I stand in front of a keyboard and I sing and I feel the presence and that talent, that God-given talent, I feel no pain. And it's because I know that I am walking in my calling. I am walking in the talent that God has given me. And every one of you in this room have talents. Each of you have a talent. Are you owning your talents? What are you doing to own your talents? Only you can answer that. Day 22 is own your relationships. We all have been there, done that. So continue to own your relationships. And for the teenagers in the room, when you create a new relationship, look at the positives in that person. I say to my teens quite often, I have a preteen and a teen, and I say to them, find the positive, because many of the moms in here know that the schools are so, oh my goodness, the kids can be so cruel to one another. And so actually getting to know those people so that you can own those relationships is so very important. And we as adults know that sometimes it's time to prune. We go through seasons in our lives. So sometimes it's time to let go of certain friends that have been in our lives that need to be pruned. Not that they're bad people, it's just that they were there for that time. And now we have other friends that are coming into our life. I'll call it the shift. Day 23 is own your spirituality. Spend time every day in your spiritual world. Every day you should be doing something that is bringing you closer to God. I read the Bible. I pray to Jesus. You may do something different. I'm not sure. We have a variety of people in here today. But whatever that looks like to you, own your spirituality. Day 24 is own your finances. Why do I have sunglasses on? Well, the reason why is because in my book I do write about when I was raising my children as small children. And I mentioned a moment ago that the infrastructure of my life had been pulled right out from under me, and all of a sudden I found myself without an identity. I felt lost. And what did I do? I hit the ground running, and I made it happen. However, it's called survival mode, and that's exactly where I was, survival mode. But I made it happen for my kids because owning my finances was so important because of providing a home for them, providing well-being for them, all of those things. So the sunglasses is a funny story because I would go out on the weekends. I would work during the week at a church, then I would do music on Saturdays at another church and music on Sundays at another church. And then during Saturday afternoon, we would go out and I would take my 9-year-old and my 6-year-old and we would go out and we would sell sunglasses. And we would sell purses and we would sell Bibles. And it's quite an experience because I'm sure my children will look back on it and say, wow, Mom. But we had so much fun, and I'll never forget, they would walk in with those Bibles and people would love it. And so what we did is we didn't look and say, oh my goodness, look where we are and look what's happened. And no, let's go out and have fun. So one day, I'm standing at a counter, and I had taken the last pair of sunglasses. I was wearing them, by the way. I thought they looked really nice. And so I laid them down on the counter, and this lady walked up, and she said, oh, I love your shades. Do they call them sunglasses or shades now? We don't know. Both. Okay, all right. I didn't want to date myself. So she said, I love your shades. And I said, oh, okay. Well, I sell those. And she said, well, I want some just like that. I said, well, I'm out of these. I said, but I tell you what, if you want those, I'll sell them to you. And I sold them right off my face. So those memories are very precious, even though they were very difficult. My mother can attest to that. I am able to look back on those memories with fond memories. Day 25 is own your sustainability. We together can do that. We hear a lot about climate change. We hear a lot about going green and all of those things. I'm not an expert on that. Mary Singer here in the Mid-South, she is an excellent expert on that and speaks to it in the book. Sustainability is so important to our children. So what I encourage you to do is look around your house, look around your world. What is owning your sustainability? What does that mean to you? Also, that means owning the sustainability of your finances, many areas of your life, owning your sustainability of your health. Day 26, own your appearance. When you walk into a room, the first impression is what people see, and that's what they get. And you never have a second chance for a first impression. So make sure that when you go out, that you are standing tall, head high, and you are presenting the best you that you can be. Walk over here for me, Jay. This is a beautiful lady who owns her appearance. Yes, and when she walks into a room, she lights it up. She stands tall, and she wears t-shirts that say, "I'm a good woman." I love that. Thank you. And day 27 is own your image. Your image is very important online and off. Now, what is the difference between image and appearance? Your image is also what you look at in the mirror. And the Bible says that I am fearfully and wonderfully made. So what I see, I accept and I rejoice at what I see. And every wrinkle is another story that I can tell. So I love myself the way I am. Do you own your image? Take a look at yourself and find the beauty that God sees in you. Day 28 is own your story. This is one of my favorites because as Jay was talking a moment ago, and she said what she does versus who she is. Who she is her story. Mary McCammon has owned her story recently. She's going to talk about that in a bit, in an own talk. And it's so very important that we release that story, and we may not feel comfortable releasing it to the world. So do that in your own time. That's why you own it, and I don't. However, write it down. If you're not ready to tell your story, write it down. Own your story, because your story is a stepping stone for someone to learn from. They can learn from your positives. How did you graduate from Harvard? These are things I would like to know. They can also learn from your negatives and mistakes that you've made in your life. Day 29 is own your career. The lovely Alandis Dobbins is in this picture. And she'll be talking about owning her career and your career today. And we all have different genres in life where we are working and making a living. So your career is your responsibility to be the best you can be and own that career. And if it's not fitting for you, then you still own it. You just change your career. And day 30 is own your profession. Who do you profess to be? Write that down. Think about that for a moment. Who do you profess to be? If you say, I profess to be a doctor. Okay, well, that is a professional area. But who do you profess to be as a human being? So it's two sides of the coin when you look at that chapter and you write in it. And day 31, as we wrap up on the 31-day experience, is own your business. And I love this part because I thrive. I got that from my father. He's 72, and he's actually got Salesman of the Month last month. And I asked him, I said, I'm sure everyone that's working with you is a lot younger. He said, oh, yes, they're just young sprouts. And so he's out there at 72 and he's owning his business. And so I learned my business acumen, my business ethics from my parents. And then I was able to build upon those as a foundation throughout my life. Many people have been instrumental in that. Virginia Rowland in the back. We've had moments, we've had tears, we've had laughter, we've had days where we met for 2 hours, don't tell anybody, and we just talked about family and friend stuff. And then the other times I was a slave driver, making her do social media, and the other time she was telling me how it was going to be done. So it just depends, but 2 hours a week I have a privilege of spending time with you, Virginia, and you have been instrumental in helping me to own my business. Now, how do we do that? How do you own your business? You plan, implement, delegate, produce, and multiply. Write that down. Plan, implement, delegate, produce, and multiply. It's called impartation. So conception cannot happen without impartation. So in order to become a mirror image of your mentor, then you must be able to follow these 5 different segments to own your business. And then also in the chapter, I talk about owning your business. You've got your business in the professional world. You've got your personal business. Own your personal business as well. Hey, did you know that? No, you don't want to do that. You want to make sure that your personal business is your personal business and that it's not out there for everyone in the world to see on Facebook. So say these words after me as I close. Say plan, with a little more emphasis. Plan. Implement, delegate, produce, and multiply. And today I thank you for going through the 31-day experience with me, just to set the foundation of today's conference. And I would like for you to take a moment, and I'm going to take a couple of questions from you, from your own notes, as you've been taking notes, and we're only going to take 2 minutes to do this for Q&A. Who has the first question or comment? Not all at once. Melinda?
I would just say I really appreciate this. This has just opened my mind to looking at who I am.
Yes.
And what I really want to share with people.
I love that. Thank you. One of the things about coming to your own is that we can go into any genre and we can take this and we can minister in a church facility and Refresh Her, completely different presentation, and people are touched, not by me, but by the tool that God has given me. And so let's take 2 minutes and let's have our own talks around your table. And take notes, talk with your friends now. Remember, some of these are friends you never met, right? So let's go ahead and get acquainted and have our own talk, and then we're moving into our next segment.